Hi guys, thank you for supporting Keep Inspired Curated Art Kits. Today we are going to show you a video tutorial done by Julius, of course, for his artwork called Hillside Flowers. Before we begin, please make sure that you have all your materials ready, which comes complete in the kit that you have purchased. Your paint, your brushes, your palette, and of course the canvas/greeting card. Aside from these, please prepare a container of water for dipping your brushes, scratch paper where you can swatch the paint, and some napkins for cleaning and drying. Are you guys ready? Let's begin. Alright, for landscape paintings like this, we should always start with the farthest section of the painting. So in this case, we have the sky, and you'll see rows and layers of hillside flowers that will be painted on. So we should be working our way towards the foreground of the painting. So we go with the sky, and then you'll see the distant row for the hillside flowers and the trees. Alright, so we begin by mixing in the blue and the white with some water so that we can paint the sky. Okay, so remember to dilute it with water to make sure that the paint flows nicely on the paper. And as you can see, Julius is using a very light blue for the sky portion of this painting. And now for the middle part of the sky, as you can see, he's mixing in a darker blue and a bit of white to darken that middle section. And for the lower part of the sky, as you can see, he'll be mixing in more white to make that portion, or the lower portion, lighter compared to the middle one. As you can see, he created a gradient using the light blue color that he mixed in a while ago, and the lower part of the sky will now be lighter by adding more white into the mixture. Now, after working on the sky, the upcoming sections moving towards the foreground will be greener and greener. So you'll see him mix in some blues and yellows and whites to achieve those colors. Okay, so don't forget to add water to your mixture or the paint. And don't be afraid to paint even outside of the sketches, because that can be adjusted later on. So for the next layer, we'll be adding in more blue and yellow to make it a darker green. Notice he didn't use any white anymore because he wanted it to be more saturated. And now for the next layer, you'll notice that he'll be blending in more blue and more yellow, but this time with more orange to make it a deeper green. Again, don't be afraid to add more water, because water helps you spread the paint better on the paper. And for this layer, you'll notice that he kind of softens the edge by just brushing the upper part of that layer with a watery brush. So you can do that by just applying light pressure on the edges of that layer. And for the last layer, you'll see that he'll mix in the darkest shade of green for this painting, which will be a mixture still of the blue, the yellow, and more orange. Okay, so now it's time to work on the distant trees. For this specific section of the painting, we'll be using a purplish shade. Okay, so you'll see Julius mixing in some blues and reds to create that shade that he needs for the distant trees. And you can see that he's lightly dabbing onto the paper to create the leaves of the trees. Now it's time to rinse your brush, and while it's wet, you can dab the edges of the first green layer to soften it and blend it along with the distant trees. And for the left part of the distant trees, he's just using a light blue shade where he mixed this current blue with the white and just lightly dabbing onto the paper with what we kind of call like a pointillism technique. So now it's time to work on the big tree. With that, we have to mix in brown with our existing mixed blue paint to achieve the color that we need. Okay, so once we achieve that brown color we're looking for, you can trace the sketch right into the paper using that paint that we've just mixed in. And you'll notice that he mixed a bit of a darker shade for the lower part of the tree. So you can also do that. Okay, so now we will be working on the flowers. So as mentioned a while ago, we will be starting from the farthest part of the painting. So that means we will be working on the first layer of the green grass that we've painted a while ago. So we start off with mixing a pink color by combining red and white. So for the flowers that are the farthest, they must be smaller, of course, compared to the ones that are near the foreground. So make sure your strokes here for the first layer are just small to create that illusion of depth. So for the flowers, you can just do random strokes. Some, of course, are bunched up together, some are gathered, so it's up to you. So now we will be mixing in a lighter pink. So we add more white to the current pink shade that we've just previously used. So this time you'll be dabbing that lighter pink shade onto the initial pink row of flowers that we created in the first layer. So you don't have to cover up the darker pink shade, but just dab lightly on top of it. But make sure that the darker pink shade is still visible in the painting. And now we will be adding more white into the pink that we've just used. So we will dab that onto the first layer of flowers that we've just painted. So for this specific layer, we've used up three shades of pink. You have a dark pink, you have the light pink, and the lightest pink. It's now time to work on the second layer of flowers, and this time we will be working with orange. So you don't have to mix anything yet. Let's just use the existing orange shade that we have. Lightly dab onto the second layer of grass and create those little flowers. So remember, as we work towards the foreground, the flowers should look bigger. So for the next layer, we'll be doing a yellow-orange. So with the existing orange paint, we'll just add in some yellow to achieve the color that we need. So now let's create a lighter yellow-orange shade by adding more yellow and white. So of course you'll just dab this color right on top of this orange layer that we've created. Okay, so this time he's blending in more yellow into the existing shade that he created, but he's now moving down to the third layer of the green grass that we've painted a while ago. And you'll notice that the flowers are now bigger. So this creates perspective for the painting. So if you're not sure how to randomly put in the flowers, you can just follow what Julius is doing over here in terms of the placement. Okay, so now you'll notice that he's not using much water for this layer. It's because he wants the paint to adhere more to the watercolor paper. So right now it's time to rinse our brushes while we wait for the paint to dry. You'll be mixing in a light yellow shade that will create the highlights for this last layer that we've just painted. So what we have to do here is just put on the highlights for some parts of the flowers and not cover it entirely to create volume. So now let's try to create more detail into the painting by adding in some buds. We'll mix some yellow and some blue to make a yellow-green color. So right now we're just adding in some tiny strokes randomly to the yellow flowers. You don't have to put buds on every flower, but just a select few. So now it's time to rinse your brush again so we can start working on the final part. Okay, so for the last part, which is the foreground section of the painting, we'll be using reds. So as you can see, Julius will be mixing in the red with the orange mixture, and the flowers will now be bigger compared to the other layers of flowers that we've created previously. Okay, so again, for what we did with the other previous layers, we will be mixing in a lighter shade. So this time we're using orange to create highlights on the red flowers. Don't be afraid to dab onto the previous layers. Now you can overlap those orange flowers. And now for the final touches of this specific layer, you can use the plain yellow paint and dab it onto the flowers. To finish off this painting, let's mix yellow-green color and paint them onto the layers of flowers and make them look like blades of grass. Lastly, let's add some white in there to highlight the flowers, and you'll see Julius just randomly dabbing from the farthest layer, going and moving forward to the foreground area. So that's it. You have once again finished a painting from Keep Inspired Curated Art Kits. Thank you so much for joining us for this tutorial. We hope that you enjoyed today as much as we did. Please don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. For Facebook and Instagram, it's at keepinspired.artkits. Please don't forget to upload your work. Please tag us when you show them off. We can't wait to see your beautiful creations. So once again, thank you and keep inspired.